Hello again, Mr. Cowley. Professor Cowley, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's good to talk to you again through the miracle of pre-recorded video. Yeah, let's get into Module 9. Um, so the first part that you wanted us to, pick a hero and a villain, one hero and one villain from, the AFI's, top heroes and villains list. Um, and yeah, I had a fun time reading through all of those because those are really really good comprehensive lists. But the hero and villain that I chose was James Bond for the hero, and the and Kaiser Sose from The Usual Suspects for the villain. Just because I'm a huge Bond fan. I grew up on Bond. I've seen the progression of his character over the decades, and I feel like that's something I could really just deep dive into. And then also really really enjoyed the character of Kaiser Sose, played by Kevin Spacey, and in The Usual Suspects. Fantastic film. I've watched that numerous times. Um, but yeah, let's analyze these characters. So first question is, what was the character's psychological motivation to be a hero or villain? In the case, I'm just going to start with Kaiser Sose on these questions here. Actually, um, and his motivation, obviously, like I was reading a few different analyses, of his character and everything of the character itself, and commentary from Bryan Singer, the director, and Kevin Spacey, and the scriptwriters and everything like that. Everyone just that was part of the formation of that character, and a lot of it is just like in a similar way how the Joker is an agent for chaos and everything. Kaiser Sose is that, but it's more insipid. He's there to show that authority is uh, a very fragile thing that can be broken and taken away from. Uh, if the right person comes along for it. It's a very ephemeral thing, and he shows that. And again, I'm sure you've seen The Usual Suspects, but Kaiser Sose shows this by willingly talking to the police, and in this movie, just making up a story that we don't know at the end if it's true or not. All like everything leading up to the interview and everything is just him recounting it. And his interactions, with the other criminals and everything leading up to the crescendo of the boat scene and all that, which goes back to the whole idea of the unreliable narrator and all that. Um, yeah, it's an absolute power move on Kaiser Sose to just go into a police station and give them an absolutely bullshit fabricated story about what's going on, and then just walk out and never be found again without any consequence. It's almost anti-hero, but this man is absolutely evil. And that goes into the other motivation too, is that this man is an evil person. They were saying, and again, in some of the analyses I read that he's Satan. He is that type of evil where, like, he is just that embodiment of selfishness and greed, and just wanting to domineer over other people because he can, because that's what he is about. So I would say that those are very powerful motivators. So your next question: are there any real life situations that help you relate to their motivation? I mean, who doesn't want to feel powerful? Who doesn't have those fantasies of sticking it to the man, or wanting to, just show that, you are in control of the situation and no one else is. And so and then I think that's what adds to the satisfaction of the ending, and just, to the whole, like, wow factor of the ending too, is that, like, this person did, just absolutely fabricate a story, or probably fabricated a story and everything like that, just to prove that he could. And I think a lot of us kind of want to do that. It goes back to, again, the anti-hero thing. We all kind of have those dark thoughts, those unsavory feelings and everything like that. We don't act upon them because we're at the core. A lot of us are decent human beings. We don't do that, but who hasn't had the daydream, of just wanting to get back at something or someone because you're so frustrated and angry at something. Yeah, and in the film, what was society's reaction to the hero or villain? I mean, obviously, the big reaction being that the police at the very end realized, the interviewer realized that he was being lied to. He was, like, when he was looking around the room that they were doing the interview in and everything, because it wasn't his police station that he was at. He was borrowing the office that they were doing all this initial interviewing in, and just looking around at all the details of the office, and then just connecting to, like, oh, he said that, and it's like, oh my gosh, he was just toying with me. And I mean, absolutely flabbergasted. Just the act of actual amazement that someone could just do that. And as they tried to catch him, as he was walking away and everything, you see Kevin Spacey, change his stride, from, being the oafish Kent character that Kaiser Sose was pretending to play, to, with the hobbled leg and everything, to obviously Kaiser Sose, this cold, calculating, demonic man, this evil persona, and he gets away. And so I feel like, that was the reaction, and we, as the audience, are right there, with the police interviewer, just like, how did we not see all that? How did we not catch on? Oh my gosh, he got duped. We got duped just as easily as he did. Pulled one over on us, pulled our leg, very well. So yeah, great cinema villain. Moving on to James Bond. I'm trying to keep the pace going, because I don't want this film to be too long for you, Professor Cowley. But moving on to James Bond. Again, with these questions, what is the psychological motivation for James Bond? And this one, I spent a little bit more time really trying to flesh out on this, and again, not to give you, like, a complete, like, PhD thesis on James Bond or something like that, but for the creation of James Bond, obviously Ian Fleming worked for the British government during World War II, and a lot of his experience was based into the creation of James Bond and everything. So James Bond was a creation, really, of the Cold War, and a lot of the fears and excitements and things that people were worried about at the time. And so his motivation, is to essentially just stop evil from spreading around the world. You had the likes of the entity of Spectre, and Russians, and evil and henchmen and mad scientists and all that. That was a reflection of the time. But there's also another aspect, another motivating aspect that I wanted to address too, and this is something that you see a lot. It started with a lot of literary tropes and a lot of early writing from, like, the 1920s and 30s and early sci-fi and all that, and that is the notion of the competent man. And that was something that was kind of made famous by Robert Heinlein. He was the guy that wrote Starship Troopers. for one of the adventure sci-fi rags way back in the day. But the competent man was the idea, and I have a little quote here. I'm just going to read about it that kind of describes really what James Bond is to a lot of people, and that is: a human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. And that, and I feel like that quote really, really fits James Bond, because, I mean, you put him in any situation, he's gonna come out on top. Yeah, he might face a little bit of pushback from henchmen and from whomever, but in the end, James Bond is going to prevail. And we like that. We love that about him. He is this uber male fantasy figure. Women love him and men want to be him. and so his motivating factor, is to utilize everything at his disposal to complete his mission, because he is the complete competent man. He is the right man for any job. And that's how the movies treat him. It's almost a superpower for him and everything. He knows when to hold him. He knows when to fold him. He can drink Ireland under the table, and he can get any woman he wants, or any man. If you look at some of the Daniel Craig films that they hinted at, which I thought was really neat. But yeah, so that's kind of a dissection of the character and his motivations and everything. Is that, like, yeah, he wants to be that person that really just draws in attention and success from everybody around him. So, and then let me go back here. And then, are there any real life situations that help you relate to their motivation, to James' motivation? I mean, yes, we all want to be the competent man. We all want to be James Bond. We all want to walk into a situation and then just completely own it, and just not have to worry about any consequence, and just be that defining person in that setting, wherever it is or whenever it is. And yeah, that's something that, again, I think a lot of people, not just men, but people in general, really want to have that type of confidence, that type of ability, and that type of talent. Yeah, we all want to be James Bond in a way, not excluding the misogyny and all that a lot of the old James Bond films had a major problem with, Goldfinger being a major one. The man does not take no for an answer, and it's pretty nasty. Anyway, but the third question to ruminate for James Bond is, in the film, or films, I should say, James Bond is a full franchise. What was the society's reaction to the hero or villain? Obviously, James Bond saves the day. He stops the villain. He stops the timer on the bomb. He steers the ship, or he course corrects the ship. He's everything. He just does it. He does it with aplomb, and just in the nick of time. And everyone can't believe it, but he did it again for Queen and Country. He did it again. And so yeah, everyone's appreciative of it. I do like in the later films, especially the Craig films, that they really do address, kind of like just some of the issues with the Bond character. He is a womanizer. He is a person that's like trying to compensate for something that's lacking in his life, a family or some type of stability that he needs and he wants, and he fights for that. And in the very final one, he gets that family, he gets that sense of a normal life, more or less, without not going spoiler hard into it too much and everything. Um, so, and again, that's another thing also is that, yeah, like I touched on earlier, James Bond is a reflection of the times that he's in. Um, we saw with the Sean Connery films, we saw more Cold War esque type of, very very heavily Cold War esque, plot lines and threats and all that. And then in the '70s, we started to see more fantastical things with the Roger Moore films, which are incredibly cheesy. They are some of the cheesiest films ever made, but I love them so much. And they also touch on some cultural issues too. We see James Bond. We see like in Live and Let Die. We see him. Working heavily with African Americans, and there's also so many African Americans in that film. The main villain is an African American. It does harken back to a lot of racism because the villain has more or less a white woman as his captor, and who comes to save the white woman from the black captor. A white woman as his captive and everything, and who comes to save the white woman from the black captor? James Bond does, and everything. So yeah, kind of what people pointed out with the problem with King Kong. So again, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back type of thing. I mean, I think for the time, it was a very progressive film. It was seen as probably a progressive film for how big it was, but still had its problems. So yeah, that would be my armchair psychologist analyses of those characters. Now for part 2, watching the very stylized documentary Ed Gein, the Ghoul of Plainfield, and going over very gruesomely, and then I'm very shocked at how detailed that documentary was. I was like, was this on TV? No way this could have been passed like on TV and everything. They got really had images there that were very descriptive. I mean, nothing more worse than your good like R-rated horror film, but still something anyway. But going into it, let's talk about it. My reaction to the film and Hollywood's use of real life history when creating movies. Like, how do I feel about that? I mean, generally speaking, I don't like it. Whenever you see something that's based on a true story or something like that, I mean, already I just get highly suspect of it. And then, I find out, like, oh, it's based on this. And then you go into a deep dive on it, and I'm just, like, left kind of like, oh. They left a lot of points of the story out. Yeah, I know it's there for entertainment and everything, but, like, it's such a disservice to the people that went through these events. It's insulting. Very, very rarely have I seen a film, where like it's done the people like, or it's done, it's done the people that's based on a good service to them and their characters. So yeah, that's how I kind of feel about it. It's a bit mucky. And the next question is why might using real life individuals with mental disorders be problematic when considering the public's understanding of mental illness? And right off the bat, obviously the obvious one is that if you showcase a mental illness in a movie or a TV show, you're already exaggerating it. And you're also forgetting other aspects of it that, professionals and people who live through and with people who have those type of mental illnesses that are depicted in movies and TV shows. They're not informing us on the full picture of it. And so in that sense, we're also doing that person a disservice, and that mental disorder a disservice as well, because we're only showcasing 1 or 2 or 3 aspects of it, and that can misinform the broader general audience and do more harm than good. And granted, I know that recently, I think there's been more attempts to show the full picture as best a film can of what it's like to live with certain mental disorders and everything. But I mean, yeah, it's still you're still seeing it. You're still seeing a lot of things through such a narrow lens. As great as things like A Beautiful Mind was, and it's been leaving my head right now. The Stephen Hawking film. As great as those were and everything like that, like we're still not getting the full picture. They still left out so many details about these people and everything to, for the sake of telling a good story. And so, yeah, on one hand, you want these people to, be recognized for the great things that they did and through the hardships that they overcame, especially, with these, whatever mental disorder that they had. But also, you're still deceiving your audience. You're still not giving them a full, complete understanding of it, and that can be tricky to parse. That can be tricky to try and do to try and give proper service to these people. So that would be my take on it. Anyway, this has probably gone on a bit too long, but I really enjoyed this assignment. Thank you, Professor Cowley. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.